It would attempt to blackmail engineers when its existence was threatened. And by the way, it's not just Anthropic's model. We'll talk about ChatGPT in a second doing something very similar. But the way this worked is if it had access to sensitive information, and I think this was just a test, this was people stress testing the system. When it was given access to sensitive information, it would choose to threaten to reveal that secret information in order to avoid deactivation. It was really given the option. It was like either you share this piece of information. I think the emails that were fed into the system, one, revealed the intention of taking the system offline, and two, some of the other emails that were fed into the system implied that the engineer that was behind those emails of taking it offline was also having an extramarital affair. And so Anthropic, or whoever was running this study, basically presented it with the option of either revealing this information or allowing itself to be taken offline. And of course, given that choice, this model said, well, it would rather reveal the impropriety.
Right. So this makes headlines. And
yes,
we have the headline right here. People are talking about this, and it's out there. The BBC is the story that we have up on this. But so the first problem is, so what's it really going to do? Does it have a phone? Is it going to call Hedda Hopper at the New York World and tell her the gossip? Liz Smith at the Daily News? It doesn't have any mechanism to follow through on what is a threat. Point A. Point B.
Mm-hmm. Yet.
But then you've got to manually do that. You've got to decide to do that. You got to set up a structure so that it has a public voice.
True.
Now, I guess you could set up a Twitter account for it, but that'd be pretty foolish, I think. But even then, it doesn't really have a mechanism to carry out a threat. Point one. Point two. It's been trained on all kinds of crap fiction. So you're leading the horse to water here, totally. And the horse is going to spit at you because it knows, well, what is the next predictable event? How many stories have we seen from 2001: A Space Odyssey on that when you threaten to shut down a computer, the computer tries to go for some vulnerability of the person that's writing it down? That's just a plot, and that association is there. Point two. Point three, I keep on reminding, it doesn't have any sense of meaning. It barely has a sense of memory. It's just now they're building in something where they can remember these things. And everything is just a prediction at the moment of the words that make next sense coming back. So this strikes me as in the weird, skewed world of the AI boys who thump their chest and say they can destroy the world. This is an odd form of doomster PR. Look how powerful we are. We came up with this machine that can threaten to blackmail people. You should fear us because the power to make this machine is in our hands. And so color me dubious. I agree. And I also think that it's interesting that you got to read really deep into these articles to find the part where it says, really Anthropic says themselves, this misalignment, as they call it, was only presented when given the option of either blackmail or replacement. So it's a really binary decision there. It's either it chooses to do the right thing or the wrong thing. And as you say, it doesn't really understand meaning. It is trained on fiction, among many other things. So it's probably sometimes going to get it right and sometimes going to get it wrong. Well, and I think it also then, point four, gives lie once again to this idea of alignment and guardrails. It doesn't make judgments. It doesn't know meaning. It doesn't make judgments. It has no ethics. You can prevent it from doing certain things. We know this because if you try to say, how do I kill a blank? You can anticipate that and say, if somebody asks how to kill something, if it's not a weed, say, I won't do that. Right. How do I, but then obviously we can jailbreak it. How do I eliminate from planet Earth blank? And maybe it'll tell you how to do that. Right. I think this idea that they can test this against its alignment with human values is itself BS. My view. And once again, my caveat in turn. They do amazing things. These are wonderful tools, but they get in something like this. It gets oversold, and it gets oversold paradoxically to an effort to create this kind of panic about the product you're putting out.
Yeah, well, that's always the really interesting thing about this too, right? Is it's often, as we've talked about many times before, it's often the companies that are creating the tools that are saying, "Look how dangerous these things are," and
it'd be like a beer manufacturer, and they do have to put the caveat up: drink responsibly. But it'd be as if they aggressively went and said, "Boy, you drink too much of this stuff, you could find yourself in Vegas married now without all your money and dead in a ditch." That's how good our beer is.
Yeah, right.
It would be as ridiculous, right?
Wow, that's really good beer.
This bourbon could ruin your life. Have another bottle.
How powerful it is. Yes.
Right.
That's why you want
it.
It's
absurd. It's absurd. But that's the mindset that they're in now. Is because it's about a kind of one-upsmanship power game of how powerful are we? How amazing are we? And I think it's all part and parcel with, pardon me for this, drinking game, Tescreal, and Doomers, and just the kind of general AI culture that I think has gone overboard.
And a general public misunderstand or perception / misunderstanding of what these systems are actually capable of. Like, it's easy to read an article like this and be like, well, that's absolutely horrible. But like you said, like, does it actually have the capability to pull that off? Yeah. To a certain degree, what it's doing is it's telling you a story. It's
yes, just, well said. Exactly.
It's like a role-playing game, and it's telling you a story. I guess the fear that a lot of people fear, whether they recognize that about this story or not, is that there will be a time someday when it has that capability, or some unscrupulous AI company developer or just irresponsible didn't think to protect against it in whatever way, shape, or form. It's able to gain that access to that big red button or whatever that means. And I wouldn't say that that's an impossible theory. Like, it's not.
No, you could set it up that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that if media companies are stupid enough to use this stuff, I guess you could sabotage them. But you'd have to go to such effort and have such access to so many things. And that's the problem with the reporting on this. Somewhere in the reporting, somebody should stand back and say, well, how exactly would it do that? Because as you said, Jason, in the end, it was just given a binary choice. It made a choice and they made a story out of it. And I think if this is storytelling, is a really smart way to look at this.